The Magic School Bus Kicks Up a Storm. A book about weather. From Scholastic. Let me tell you about the day Ralphie decided he was a superhero. It started one hot morning when we were sitting around the classroom. It was really hot. There wasn't a breath of air. It was the kind of day that gives new meaning to the words, when you're hot, you're hot. Even the thermometer is sweating. What we need is rain and lots of it. Lucky Liz. In spite of the heat, Carlos was working on his science project. Then, enter the Frizz. That's what we sometimes call our teacher, Miss Frizzle. She was wearing an amazing outfit, even for her, and she was singing. It ain't gonna rain no more, no more. It ain't gonna rain no more. What good is my rain catcher if it ain't gonna rain no more? I know what we need to clear up this muggy weather, said Ralphie, looking out the window. A big thunderstorm. You mean with thunder and lightning? Asked Arnold. It was only 9 o'clock, and already Arnold was beginning to think this was one of those days he should have stayed home. The idea of a thunderstorm was giving Ralphie a brainstorm. What if I could make a thunderstorm? It will be Ralphie to the rescue. I like sweating. I hear it's good for you. I wouldn't even be Ralphie anymore, Ralphie said to himself. I'd be Weatherman. And that's how this all started. Shika shika kaboom! In the next instant, Miss Frizzle brought Ralphie back to the real world. How would you like to join our discussion about weather, Ralphie? She asked. Sure, said Ralphie. Weather is my specialty. Weather is how all the air above and around us is right now. Weatherman is my name. Weather is my game. Yeah, right. No, it's not, Carlos objected. It's water that makes the weather. You know, water, as in rain. Then Dorothy Ann chimed in. According to my research, it's air that makes the weather. Moving air, as in wind. Keisha disagreed, naturally. Let's get this straight. Heat makes the weather, as in heat from the sun? Miss Frizzle said everyone was right. Air, water, and heat stirred together make weather, she explained. Water, air, heat. Stir them together, and you've got weather. Then the Frizz announced that we were going on, you guessed it, a field trip. Carlos set up his rain catcher outside, just in case it rained while we were gone. We couldn't believe our eyes when we saw our bus. It looked like a weird weather machine. What's all that for? I hope the air conditioning still works. Ralphie was back to his weatherman thing. Before we got on the bus, he announced, I, Weatherman, will show you how to make weather. I will even make a thunderstorm. But first, we shall explore one of weather's major ingredients, air. Excuse me, said Keisha. What's to explore? Air is all over the place. Do you think I mean just plain old sitting around air? I'm talking about moving air, said Ralphie. Then we all got on the bus. Shika shika kaboom! I think the heat is getting to his brain. We couldn't believe that Miss Frizzle actually let Ralphie take over the controls. Maybe the heat was getting to her brain too. Ralphie pressed a button, pulled some levers, and the giant fan behind the bus turned on. The next thing we knew, the bus was rising up in the air, and the top was opening up. And the next thing we knew, we all changed into super light versions of ourselves. We were floating out the top and into the air. I feel as light as a feather. Maybe he's Featherman, not Weatherman. I'm blown away by this experience. Look at that humongous cloud, said Carlos. Too bad it's not over my rain catcher. And look how sunny it is over there, said Tim. According to my research, said Dorothy Ann, weather is different in different places. That's because various combinations of wind, water, and heat make many kinds of weather. DA really is smart, I have to admit. When we looked back at the bus, it had sprouted wings and turned into a glider. Our bus does stuff like that. Look, Ma, no ground. We never did this at my old school. I knew I should have stayed home today. Listen, you guys, all Ralphie did was turn on a giant fan. The world isn't really filled with big fans, said Wanda, when we were all back on the bus. So what really makes the wind? I'll answer that, said Keisha, but then Ralphie has to make a thunderstorm. What really makes wind is a combination of air and heat. The sun heats the earth. Warm earth heats the air closest to it. The heated air rises because warm air is lighter than cool air. When the warm air rises, more air has to take its place, so cool air rushes in, and this air movement creates wind. Okay, one thunderstorm coming up, promised Ralphie back at the controls. I'll just crank up the wind. Add some heat. More heat. More wind. More heat. More. Oops. The bus started spiraling up and up and up. Any normal teacher would have been worried, but not the Frizz. She was all excited that Ralphie had created an updraft. She explained that an updraft is warm air that blows up instead of sideways. It's sort of like heat waves coming out of a toaster, only much, much, much bigger. I still don't see any thunderstorm. In my old school, help! I, weatherman, have created an updraft. Squawk! After Ralphie mixed air and heat to make an updraft, some of the kids actually started calling him Weatherman. Keisha couldn't believe it. How about clouds? Asked Wanda. Can you make clouds too, Weatherman? Why, certainly, Wanda, said Ralphie. I'll just, You need water, piped up Phoebe. Clouds are made out of water. I learned that in my old school. What do you mean, Weatherman? He's Ralphie. Then Ralphie pulled another lever, and without so much as a shika-shika kaboom, we turned into water. You could see right through us. Carlos even put his arm right through Arnold. This is ridiculous. The bus started changing too. It turned into a giant seltzer bottle and sprayed us out into the air. If we had been real water, the sun would have warmed us and made us evaporate into the air. But this was much more fun. This is what she calls a field trip? I can't hear you. What did you spray? Carlos, you're all wet. Weatherman has turned us from water into tiny droplets, Miss Frizzle explained. Now she was calling Ralphie Weatherman too. Keep together, class. We are making a cloud, shouted Wanda. Thanks to me, Weatherman, yelled Ralphie. In my old school, we weren't allowed to turn into a cloud. In your old school, you didn't have Weatherman. I think I'd like your old school. It's cold up here, Arnold complained. I knew I should have brought a sweater. The air is so cold way up here, we're turning into ice crystals, Miss Frizzle told us. We're also falling, observed Carlos, and sure enough, he was right. Miss Frizzle explained that when ice crystals in a cloud grow and stick together, they get heavy and fall. Look on the bright side, said D.A. The lower we fall, the warmer we get. We're unique. We're beautiful. We're also falling. Which must be why we're melting, yelled Tim. Ralphie was really on a power trip now. Weatherman made rain, he shouted. Luckily, our bus didn't fail us. It had turned back into a glider, but now it had a giant funnel on top. We rained into the funnel and right back into the bus. We were kids again. That was fantastic. Great ride. We were raindrops. Come on, Weatherman, let's do it again. Everyone thought it had been neat being a cloud, then ice crystals, and then falling down as rain. But Keisha was still not impressed. Okay, Ralphie, she said, being sure to call him Ralphie and not Weatherman. So you made a little cloud and a little rain, but where's the thunderstorm? Weatherman will not disappoint you, promised Ralphie. He was at the controls again. Make an updraft, he shouted as he pulled some levers. Make a cloud! Freeze the water! More heat, more water, more wind! Shika shika kaboom! The wind roared. Rain poured down. Thunder boomed. Lightning flashed. Weatherman had really made a thunderstorm. And we were right inside it. Look, said Carlos in amazement. It's raining up. That's right, Carlos, said Miss Frizzle. Moist air in the rising updraft cools and condenses into clouds. If the air gets cold enough, the moisture turns into ice crystals, then snow. When the snow gets heavy enough, it falls. As it gets warmer, it turns to rain. Listen to that thunder. Look at that lightning. Amazing. Didn't I say I should have stayed home today? Then Arnold pulled himself together long enough to give us a safety lecture. Leave it to Arnold. Lightning is very, very dangerous. When you see lightning, don't stay outside. And never stand under a tree. Lightning can hit anything that sticks up in the air, like trees. Believe me, you don't want to be around when that happens. The safest place in a lightning storm is indoors, which is why I should have stayed home today. Poor Ralphie was starting to look a little sick. This is too much, he wailed. I've got to make it stop. Sorry, Weatherman, said Miss Frizzle, but a storm like this won't stop until it's all rained out. Listen, I'm not really Weatherman, Ralphie sounded desperate. I'm just Ralphie. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just pulling levers to show off. This is just like being on a roller coaster. I hate roller coasters. They make me sick. The moment Ralphie pulled the last lever, the bus shrank to the size of a ping pong ball. We were all tiny. The raindrops outside looked huge. Oh no, Ralphie groaned. I pulled the shrinker scope. Now I've made things even worse. I guess Keisha felt sorry for Ralphie because she started being a lot nicer to him. Come on, Weatherman, she said. You can get us out of this. Just think. Ralphie brightened right up when he heard Keisha call him Weatherman. The bus shrinks, Weatherman thinks. As Ralphie thought, the tiny bus got caught in an updraft and started going up higher in the air. It was colder up there, so now there were huge snowflakes instead of huge raindrops. Ralphie started muttering to himself. Let's see, Ralphie thought out loud. The storm has to rain out. Out, down, up. Up with the updraft. Freeze. Fall, melt, melted snow falling, falling down, down and out. That's it. I, Weatherman, will get us out of this. Follow me. Grab a snowflake. Liz steered the glider bus as we all jumped off. We each grabbed our own snowflake to ride on, at least for a minute. Excuse me, said Arnold, but my snowflake's melting. We're getting rained out, yelled D.A. Way to go, Weatherman. Maybe I really am Weatherman. Next thing we knew, we were raining right into Carlos's rain catcher. My rain catcher worked, yelled Carlos. It's already rained 1 inch, plus 8 kids and 1 teacher. The only question was, now that we were rained out, how were we going to get out? Luckily, Liz had driven the bus into the parking lot. How do we get out of here? Miss Frizzle gave the thumbs up sign to Liz. Then Liz spilled us right out of the rain catcher. As we landed on the ground just outside our school door, we grew back to our normal size. Safely back in our classroom, we discussed what we had learned on our field trip. Wind, water, and heat can make a huge storm, began Wanda. Those same ingredients can also make a beautiful sunny day, Miss Frizzle added. It's all in the mixing. Ralphie had just one thing to add. From now on, I'm going to leave the job of making the weather up to... Weather woman, shouted Keisha. Come on, Keisha, said Ralphie. You can't be weather woman any more than I can be weather man. The job is bigger than both of us. Shika shika kaboom. Forget it, Keisha. Thanks for listening to The Magic School Bus Kicks Up a Storm, a book about weather.